We are witnessing a scene of political hypocrisy so blatant, so utterly shameless, that it has caused a former leader to go utterly raging, and more deliciously, may have just led to a devastating public slapdown delivered by one of the government's own, the formidable Angela Rayner. The entire grotesque spectacle revolves around Sir Keir Starmer's latest attempt to cement his regime by brazenly stuffing the House of Lords with his closest allies, a move that flies in the face of every promise he ever made about transparency and democratic reform. The latest list, published by Number 10 on Wednesday, sees Labour putting forward a gargantuan 25 names for the upper chamber, effectively rewarding cronies and former spin doctors with lifetime seats on the red benches. The political establishment, or the Uni Party as some call it, is having a massive laugh at the expense of the British public, and nobody is more furious about this monumental exercise in political patronage than Nigel Farage. Farage is absolutely raging over the fact that his party, Reform UK, despite winning the most seats in the recent local elections and now being the primary vehicle for political protest in the country, was not allowed to nominate a single soul for the upper chamber. 2. He recalls writing to the Prime Minister in the summer, making a reasonable request for reform to have some representation in the Lords, only to be denied the courtesy of a response, a contemptuous snub that he correctly identifies as a blatant attempt to keep him and his party outside the sacred Westminster walls. 3. This act of exclusion, Farage warns, only makes him more determined to smash the political establishment than ever, and frankly, who can blame him? Starmer's list is a nauseating roll call of loyalty rewards, including the executive chairman of the supermarket chain Iceland, Richard Walker, who recently switched allegiance to Labour, Matthew Doyle, a former Number 10 Director of Communications, and, most damningly, Katie Martin, a former senior advisor to Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who is being ushered into the Lords despite the utter shambles of Reeves's disastrous policy terms and the continuous leaks that have plagued the Treasury. For these appointments are designed to achieve one thing, to strengthen Starmer's increasingly embattled position in the Lords, which has been providing staunch opposition to his government's flagship workers' rights legislation and other key manifesto commitments. 5. The government's own excuse that the Tories stuffed the Lords previously is a weak attempt to justify their own blatant cronyism, effectively arguing that since the old establishment cheated, the new one gets to cheat bigger. Now, the official list also confirmed that the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, nominated a handful of peers, including the former Olympic swimmer and women's rights activist Sharon Davis, who has become a powerful voice in the debate over trans rights, as well as the ex-cabinet minister Sir John Redwood and the journalist and historian Simon Heffer, showing that even in opposition, they are still playing the patronage game, albeit on a far smaller scale. But here is where the story gets really spicy, and where the title comes into play. Just as Starmer thought he was successfully cementing his grip on power through this influx of placemen, his own Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner has seemingly exposed him on live television, or at least provided the political ammunition to make him explode. Rayner, who was forced to resign her cabinet position due to her own stamp duty scandal, has been waiting in the wings and recently delivered a powerful defiant speech in the Commons, passionately defending the very workers' rights legislation that the Lords have been blocking. 6. In her intervention, she publicly attacked the upper chamber for delaying the government's mandate, declaring that vested interests worked with the Tories and the Lib Dems and, cheered on by Reform and backed by the Greens, to resist the manifesto on which we were elected. 7. The key phrase here is resist the manifesto, because while she appeared to be attacking the opposition, she was simultaneously sending a clear, unambiguous message to Starmer: you have a mandate, yet you are now filling the chamber with non-elected allies who could easily become the next set of vested interests, undermining the very radical legislation you claim to champion. This speech, delivered with palpable ambition and timing, was a perfect piece of political choreography, reminding everyone, including a jittery Starmer, that she is the one who championed the Workers' Rights Bill, she is the one who holds the genuine loyalty of the left, and she is showing Labour MPs exactly what they've been missing since she quit. 8. Starmer, who had just publicly lamented losing her from his cabinet, is now left looking like a weak leader who is resorting to the old-school cronyism he promised to abolish, while his own deputy is using a major legislative battle to expose the deep ideological and moral contradictions at the heart of his government. The Prime Minister is forced to either defend the indefensible appointments or risk a further split with his own ambitious second-in-command, a confrontation that will have him quietly exploding behind the scenes. Thank you so much for watching.